Welcome, everyone, to the first NoDQ.com live recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. Thank you to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. Let's discuss Dynamite. It's a new year. Dynamite was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that meant the return of the legendary good old JR, Jim Ross, coming back. He sounded a little rough initially, but as the show went on, he seemed okay. Jim Ross back on commentary, at least for this one show in his hometown, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Not sure if it's his hometown or not, but his home state. We had Renee Paquette backstage. Apparently, JetSpeed had been attacked, and they were scheduled to team up with Jack Perry on the show, but they were out of commission. Don Callis and The Demand were showing fake concern, and then they celebrated. There was a bounty, and apparently somebody took advantage of it and collected on the money. We had our first match of the show, which was Jon Moxley versus Shelton Benjamin in a Continental title Eliminator match. MVP was on commentary. No outside interference in this match. That's the rule of the Continental title. I always wonder, why not just have this be for all the matches? Why just the Continental title? Interference is rampant in wrestling, and you would think the promoter would just ban all outside interference, right? I never understood that. Anyways, my biggest issue with this match was that I don't like Eliminator matches because Shelton Benjamin is not beating Jon Moxley. Even if he survived, the idea was that if he could survive 20 minutes with Jon Moxley, that would be considered a win. And because of that, Shelton Benjamin would get a future opportunity at the Continental title, which means we have to potentially drag the program out even longer. I say either just do the title match or have Shelton Benjamin beat somebody and get a title match. You know Jon Moxley's not losing after just winning the tournament. But it was a good match. It was solid. Shelton wanted a handshake. Moxley just slapped his hand. They fought on the outside. They fought in the crowd. They got back in the ring. Moxley was targeting the arm. And then after the commercial break, Shelton Benjamin did some of the German suplexes. Then Moxley built up momentum, but Shelton caught him with the pay dirt. He went for a super kick. Moxley kicked out of that. And then Moxley hit the paradigm shift. Benjamin kicked out of that. And then Benjamin applied a submission, but Moxley was able to counter it into a pin at like 19 minutes and 55 seconds. Literally 5 seconds before the end, Jon Moxley did, in fact, get the win. So that's it for Shelton Benjamin. He got his match. He put up a good fight, but as I expected, he did take the L here. It's going to be tough for Shelton Benjamin while Bobby Lashley is gone, let's face it. And afterwards, Moxley offered the handshake. So I guess Jon Moxley is a babyface, but the rest of the Death Riders are heels. I don't know. It's confusing. It's strange that we don't know what direction their characters are going in other than Jon Moxley is a fighter and he's fighting now. We had a little recap showcasing the match between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Okada from Wrestle Kingdom. That was Tanahashi's retirement. No other sign of Okada on this show, but obviously with Wrestle Kingdom, he's taking a little break. We had The Demand, Ricochet, and the Gates of Agony going up against Jack Perry, and he was supposed to have JetSpeed with him, but they were attacked. As it turns out, the Young Bucks stepped up to the plate, and they have their old music prior to their EVP gimmick. They did their high-flying moves, the dives to the outside. Demand were able to slow the pace down a bit. And at one point, Toa Liona picked up all three guys, the Bucks and Perry, and did a Samoan drop to all three of them. Then we had things breaking down. Everybody's in the ring. Jack Perry managed to avoid the spirit gun, and he took out Ricochet with a poison rana. The Young Bucks super kicked GOA, got them out of the equation. BTE triggered to Ricochet, and then Jack Perry hit the running knee and got the 1-2-3 victory. Fun match here with these guys. Bucks back in full babyface mode now. It was enjoyable for what it was. Although I know the Young Bucks, definitely not everybody's cup of tea. I think they're better as baby faces at this point, just because their whole deal is going out there and having great matches. And it's hard to be a heel when you're flashy and you're doing all these impressive things, all this innovative offense, but they also piss off a lot of people too. So it's hard to say what the best direction is for them. But I ultimately think they're better off as baby faces. Post-match, we had an attack from Mark Davis and the debut of Jake Doyle, who wrestled in TNA Wrestling. There was the post-match attack. Don Callis family has another new member. And speaking of the Don Callis family, JetSpeed came out there to help out, even though they were injured. Then the lights went out. They came back on, and it was Andrade, who is back. He left WWE in like 2021, went to AEW, left AEW, went back to WWE, got cut, went back to AEW, but there was a legal issue, so he disappeared for a couple months, and now he is back again. And meanwhile, as all this was going on, FTR were watching on the stage, and that was the only time we saw FTR on the show. So I'm not sure what's up with FTR. Where's Copeland and Christian? I know Copeland's doing some acting stuff and other outside projects, but I'm ready for the Copeland Christian versus FTR. I'm not really sure where this little storyline is going with FTR, considering we still got to wrap up that storyline with Copeland Christian. We had Willow Nightingale celebrating her victory as the new TBS champion. She was out there with Harley Cameron and Chris Statlander to celebrate. They had a little party. And during this segment, the lights went out. And this was a technical error. And we had a spotlight being used for the segment. Willow invited Mercedes Moné out there, and Mercedes did come out to the ring, but after Willow put her over, Mercedes just completely freaked out. She was crying. She flipped over the table. She was pushing everybody, but then she ended up falling into the celebration cake. And then Willow gave Mercedes a power bomb onto the cake for good measure. Segment was a little over the top and goofy, but Mercedes, she's getting humiliated, and people were enjoying it. So there you go. We had a Mark Briscoe promo from his farm, I presume, and he was hyping up a match on Collision against Hechicero. I expect Briscoe to win that one. Don't really care about it. And next up, we had Bandido versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara, who at one point was a pillar of AEW. The announcers even brought up how he wrestled in the first match on Dynamite. Thank you for reminding us that at one time, Sammy Guevara was considered to be a big deal and he was being groomed to be a top star. Well, now he's basically just a filler opponent for Bandido, since Bandido has a world title match on next week's Dynamite. Pretty obvious Bandido was winning this one. And Guevara did get in some offense. He did a springboard cutter. and he countered the 21 plex with a knee strike, but then he got a little bit too arrogant. He taunted Bandido, and that bit him in the ass. Bandido caught him with a knee and then hit the 21 plex and got the 1-2-3 victory. Bandido wins, and then we had the world champion MJF coming down to the ring. MJF bragged about being a lucha libre legend. He said he sold out Arena Mexico several times. He had a translator who was speaking to Bandido, and I'm just thinking, well, something tells me this translator is going to get his ass kicked before this segment is over. And then MJF said he wanted Bandido's Dynamite ring, said it doesn't belong to Bandido. MJF said they could call the match off. The translator spoke some more, but then Bandido grabbed the microphone and he said, "I could speak English, you stupid son of a bitch," which got a big pop from the crowd. MJF gave him a low blow, took the Dynamite ring, and then went to hit him with it, but accidentally struck the translator. Then Bandido gave MJF a low blow, took the ring back, gave both the translator and MJF the 21 plex, and then Bandido held up the World Championship as the final build for their match on next week's Dynamite. I thought it was a good segment, but it's painfully obvious that Bandido's just the first guy getting fed to MJF as the champion. I would have preferred if we just had the segment with MJF. We didn't really need the Sammy Guevara match. It was just time filler. But other than that, I did enjoy Bandido speaking in English and beating up the translator. That was fun. We had Toni Storm versus Marina Shafir, which was at 9:40, a little bit later than usual. Not much to this one. You had outside interference from Wheeler Yuta and the other guy, Daniel Garcia. And then Marina started mocking Toni Storm's dancing. Toni Storm was eventually able to make her comeback, but then Wheeler Yuta pulled out the referee, causing a disqualification. We got a rare DQ on AEW Dynamite. And then after the match, Mina Shirakawa ran down and shielded Toni Storm. Then we had Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong coming out there. Claudio came out there. Referees had to hold everybody back. And then Orange Cassidy, he's a real ladies' man. He helped the ladies up, and that was the segment. Again, not much to it, just getting all these people on the show. Then backstage, Darby Allin demanded a match with Pac, but Pac said he's not interested, so Darby used a fire extinguisher on Pac, hit him with his skateboard, and then threatened to break his ankle, and Pac agreed to do the match. That's all it took. Then the Death Riders quickly ran over to come to his aid. If only Pac held on for like 5 more seconds, he wouldn't have had to have agreed to the match because the Death Riders would have saved him. Oh, well. So that match is coming up. Kind of a lame build up to it, in my opinion. Again, Darby, he cannot sleep at night until he beats Pac. Whatever. We had our main event of the show, which was a lights out match, which means anything goes, unsanctioned. It was Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook of the Opps against Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. We had the lights actually out in the beginning of this, but I think it was just another technical error because the lights did come back on during the lights out match. So I don't know what's up with that other than the lights actually did go out unintentionally during the lights out match, just like they did earlier in the show. So they brawled on the outside for a while, and then the tide turned when Hook suplexed Swerve onto the apron. And after the commercial break, Hook suplexed Hangman Page through a table that was set up in the corner. Swerve, though, used his staple gun on Hobbs and Page. He hit Hobbs with like a piece of cardboard or styrofoam or something, and then took the stapler gun and stapled Hobbs's nuts. And that will take even the biggest man down. And then Page and Swerve pulled out some cinder blocks, and Swerve went for a dive, but Hobbs caught him and gave him a power slam on the blocks. And then Page made the save. Then we had the Opps dojo interfering, and the bad guys wrapped the chain around the necks of Page and Swerve, but then Prince Nana made the save, throwing a cup of hot coffee into Hobbs's face. Good guys managed to fight off all of the Opps, and then Swerve and Hobbs went at it, and then Page came in, and Page and Swerve did the stomp and deadeye combo to Hobbs on the cinder blocks, effectively taking him out of the match. They turned their attention to Hook, and Hook got absolutely destroyed here. Page getting his revenge for Hook, costing him the title. Buckshot lariat to Hook, and then they wrapped the chain around Hook's neck, threw him over the top rope, choked him out, and Hook had no other choice but to tap out. Good guys celebrated, and that was the end of Dynamite. I will say, I'm glad that it was Hook that took the fall here. I agree with Matthew in the chat, and it wasn't Hobbs that took the pin. Where was Samoa Joe, by the way? If anything goes, Joe should have come out there and helped out his boys. But nonetheless, good guys got the win. And it was a solid Dynamite overall to kick off the new year. A little light on the storylines, but the wrestling was very good for the most part. Jim Ross, it was nice to see him again, although he really is just a bit player at this point. I think he did offer a little bit on commentary, but he definitely seemed a bit cranky by the end. The show went pretty long, 20-minute overrun, and JR is like, come on, guys, hurry up and get the win here. You know, he was trying to spin it as like, well, more people could interfere, but I think Jim Ross was just tired and wanted the show to be over, if I'm being totally frank here. I think it was a good Dynamite. It was a solid 6 out of 10 Dynamite to start off the new year. More or less just a little bit of a filler show for next week. They're doing Maximum Carnage, and that's going to have a world title match. Feels like that will be a little bit more of a must-see Dynamite. This one was mostly skippable, but pretty good wrestling. So if you like your wrestling on Wednesday night, then this was a solid show. I guess my biggest issue with the matches is that I felt like pretty much all of them had very predictable outcomes. And, I feel like that's been an issue I've had with Dynamite as of late. Thank you guys for watching this stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out the No DQ review if you missed it. And again, quick plug, the No DQ review is available on Spotify. Head over there, search No DQ review, or you can go straight to nodq.com/Spotify, and that will take you right to the No DQ Spotify page. We even have a little bonus video on there with our predictions or what we want to see in 2026. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And remember, SmackDown is on early. I will be doing a live stream, but it will be earlier than usual. Stay tuned for that. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.